I don't know. I think the world has lost its ever-loving mind. Now, one of the people that really understands that is my good friend Ron Vaillant. He understands what is going on in our fair land. And before we bring him on, I would love to run the clip of Doug Ford so that we can talk. Is that possible? All right. And then we're going to bring him on and talk about, what really is going on in our government. What should we be afraid of and what should we not be afraid of? What should we just laugh at? It is getting comical. Take a look at this, Doug Ford.
Could I go out there and be the only politician in the entire country, including the prime minister, all premiers, every single mayor, because I've talked to the vast majority of them, and say, okay, docs, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm going to disagree with you. When I said I'm going to follow their direction on health advice right from day one. And then if I did that, they could slap a Section 22 down, and it's just friction. I'm going to stick with what I've done right from the beginning. I'm going to stick with health and science and work with them collaboratively. But I'm going to be very frank. There's no politician in this country who's going to disagree with their chief medical officer. They just aren't going to do it. They might as well throw a rope around their neck and jump off a bridge. They're done.
So pretty much that is exactly what's going on, is that once you buy out the chief medical officers that are in around the country and they've got their pretty paychecks, right? And they're going to speak the narrative that the higher ups want them to speak. What guy lacking in courage, character, and any kind of strength is going to go against that? And that's what Doug Ford admitted to quite a while ago. Ron Vaillant, thank you very much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Ron, one of the clips that you sent us and you wanted us to show was about basically there's a couple of doctors, and this was from, I think it's a couple years or maybe several years old, but it shows that when people sit in front of these desks that, well, listen to what they say, Ron, just a second.
Yeah. I don't know why I bring all these papers. I never look at them.
Oh, when you're giving numbers, I do. I go, oh. I said that. Did you really say that?
I just say whatever they write down for me.
That's why you're guessing.
Oh, so lovely. They just say whatever they're told, right, Ron?
Well, exactly. And then you got Doug Ford saying that if anyone goes against the chief medical officer who says that they get their information from someone else, you might as well jump off a bridge. And that's actually, I think, a true statement that he said there, because you will be done in.
Right.
Just as we've seen some of these presidents of different countries who've been toasted because they haven't gone along with this vaccine mandate, right?
Yes, and the courts. They don't want to go against the medical authorities.
So what you have to ask the question is who's over top of all of this, right? What's really going on? And really the way to look at this is to see what the power brokers are really saying and to let them define what's going on. And then you can just see what's, really happening. And, I remember back in the beginning of the whole thing in 2020, February, March, it was roughly, that the UN was basically stating that everyone on the planet has to be jabbed, right? And I knew then that that's how I was going to make my decision, because they want to have every single person on the planet jabbed. For what purpose? What's in that jab? And this is before, any of the doctors were coming out talking about the issues with the mRNA and all these other kinds of things. And so the UN wanted everyone jabbed. And really, all of this has to do with UN Agenda 2030 and even UN Agenda 21. And it was if you want to pull up that graphic here with, it was Canada that signed on to UN Agenda 2030. It was Stephen Harper and the Conservatives who signed on to it in 2015 during the election, actually, when, Trudeau got in a month after that. And so people need to realize what's going on in Canada right now is UN Agenda 2030 goals. And that's only 8 years away, or even less now, that they want to have all this in play. And if you read Agenda 2030, you'll just basically, it's kind of feels good at first, but if you start diving into it, you'll see the problems with it. Canada signed on to it. So it was the Conservatives who did that. And now what's happening is Trudeau and the premiers and mayors and councilmen, they're just implementing it. And so I've run for the PPC twice. I know you've ran once. And the thing is to get the Conservative voter to understand that basically the Conservative Party of Canada is essentially, in lockstep with the Liberals in many ways. And so you can't go ahead and vote Trudeau out and get the Conservatives in and expect a change, because Trudeau is simply implementing what they signed on to, Agenda 2030. Okay, so we have it so that the UN states that they want everyone on the planet to be vaccinated. If you pull up the Gavi shot there, Gavi is a non-government organization funded by Bill Gates out in Switzerland that's beyond, the law. But anyhow, they state in there that immunizations are going to play a key role in achieving 14 of the 17 goals of Agenda 2030. And if you go and look at the 17 goals of Agenda 2030, you wonder how in the world are inoculations going to accomplish this? But when you see how it's all being rolled out now, where people are going to be completely shut out of society unless they go along with the clot shot, then there's a real issue there, right? And so this has been going on, and many people are rightly viewing this as being World War III. It's World War III in a covert way. It's through psychological warfare. It's through corrupt, complicit politicians and media and on and on. And here we are facing this, and many people don't really realize that it's a very well planned attack that has been planned for decades, and it's rolling out on us. And there's so much theater involved that it's hard to really know what's going on unless you know what their goals are. So there you see highlighted that it's going to achieve 14 of the 17 goals. So this is why it's all about the vaccination, right? And it's not just one vaccination; it's multiple, as we know, and it's rolling out into this Vax Pass. Now, this Vax Pass, like when I went door to door talking to some of the older Conservative voters, they said, "Well, we have to do this Vax Pass," and I said, "You're going to be excluding Canadians, out of society on account of this." And they said, "Yeah, well, we have to go ahead because they're the ones who are causing all our problems, right?" And so this fracturing and splitting of society is all by design. Whenever communism comes in, and that's really what Agenda 2030 is, it's a fascist communist dictatorship. There's always, you have to go along with the common good. You have to go along with the groupthink. Otherwise, you're going to be a threat to society. And so society gets polarized, and that's what's being, by design right now through the media and everything else. And Trudeau there talking about, the vax-free being the troublers of Israel type thing. One thing that one police officer said is that people should go ahead and lodge a complaint or lodge a lawsuit against Trudeau for crimes against humanity, in a sense, because he's actually singling out, a minority in Canada and, making it so that people will be violent towards them, if you know what I'm saying, right? That's where it's going, because all of this is just going to continue on. And it's going to continue on into this Vax Pass, and then it becomes entrenched, and it's a whole new draconian method of control. And so people are buying into it because they say, we got to get through this pandemic, so we're going to go ahead and subvert, the rights of Canadians, subvert the Canadian Charter of Rights and everything else like that. And in order to be able to, get through this so we can get back to
Ron, I want to show you, Brian Lilly is just reporting that the Ford government will close or restrict the operation of non-hospital surgical clinics. Announcement later today. Reason given, Brian Lilly is told, is to try and divert human resources to hospitals, not something they can force on workers. Unclear how far-reaching, and more to come. It just goes on. The endless restrictions.
Well, it is, yeah. Yeah, it's a rhetoric, right? It's all theater, and it's but the whole point is to be able to have this clash of society. And you see the majority of people kind of going along with it right now. And those who are the vax-free or have chosen not to be are being demonized and being blamed for it when that's not the truth at all. So it's lies and theater. And so where this is going is the Vax Pass, once it gets enshrined and everything, will have established a whole new method of control, and people are being excluded out of society and run over. And then it's going to go into the common pass for the common home. And then what you're going to find is Agenda 2030 protocols and sustainable development goals added onto this whole regime. And so the people who right now are, going along with the Vax program may find themselves to be unvaccinated, so to call, in the future if they don't go along with the UN Agenda 2030 mandates, and a lot of the way we live our lives right now are unsustainable, and it's going to come down like a hurricane on all of us. But I guess I'm kind of running ahead there. So with this last year, major things have happened. We've seen all of the lockdowns and everything else like that. But one other thing that happened, and I was fighting against it with many other people, was Bill C-15. And that is that all Canadian law has to be according to UNDRIP or UNDRIP, or as Brian Loving, who interviewed me, called it UNIDRIP. But anyhow, that has passed. It's now law. And Article 26 states that the Indigenous have the rights to all the lands, territories, and resources to which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or used. And these things right now are going on behind the scenes, and there's land claims being made. No one's talking about it. I've tried to get on to Rebel News through 4 different reporters, but they're not having it. And we got to get on their case and say, look, we got to cover this because we need to get this attention worldwide, because no one knows what's going on. And this is a worldwide endeavor. It's not just Canada that is an issue. And so this is passed now. And one thing that people have to realize, besides the fact that they can claim rights to the lands, private lands too, all over Canada, is Article 46. And it says nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or perform any act contrary to the Charter of the United Nations. So all Canadian law has to be according to this document, and this Article 46 declaration, and nothing can go contrary to the Charter of the United Nations. So in effect, what has happened in Canada is that we are now under the UN Charter. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and it's not even being, reported on or anything. No single MP has warned Canadians. No Conservative MP has warned Canadians. Think about that. And they've been sent the letter that was drafted up. It's on Mark Friesen's website, if you want to pull that up, at forumforcanadiansovereignty.info, FFCS.
Okay, I'll see if I can get that. Yep.
Okay, and so there on the top, it'll say UNDRIP. And if you go there, there's different videos that I posted, but also the letter that got drafted up and sent to every MP and senator in Canada. If you read that, it's a bit of a read, that's the declaration. Okay, yeah, all right. Go down. Yeah, go down, all the way down. Or there's videos. Okay, there it is there. If you read that, you'll be up to speed. You'll know more than most MPs know about this, and the huge implications for Canada. So that has gone on.
You contacted them. What kind of feedback are you getting from members of Parliament when something so serious is going on? What are they saying?
Crickets. There was 2 Conservative MPs who were part of the standing committee. And I said to them, I've looked at your social media and your YouTube channels, because they're complaining about no one knows about this stuff. And I says, you haven't said a word. No one has said anything. It's just gone on behind the scenes. And so that's going on. So these are huge issues. And if anyone knows how to get a hold of, the major media in the States, let's get on some shows and get people knowing about this stuff. But and in the throne speech, we don't have to pull it up. The throne speech, we now have a new Governor General who's Aboriginal, and a Governor General is the highest position in the land. And it's all about, the throne speech is all about reconciliation and all about, this fulfilling UNDRIP and also getting everyone in the planet, in Canada vaccinated, right? And also to help fund other countries for this as well. And so they're laying out what's really going on, where we're headed, right? And so that's that with the UNDRIP. But now we've had this year at the very end, we've had the COP26 conference, and that was the emergency conference, or the conference about the climate emergency that's going on. And so what we're going to see here in the future is it's going to also roll into, if you go to the 2021 graphic, actually, if we so the COVID issue has been one thing and has brought in lockdowns and everything else like that. And Agenda 2030, what they want to do is they want to reduce CO2 emissions, 50% below 2019 levels in Canada. Meanwhile, we're bringing in 400 million people into Canada. No, not 400 million, 400,000 people into Canada a year. And so this is a huge, everything is going to get cratered and shut down. All of the supply chain issues that are going on are all by design to be able to shrink the economy and to kill small businesses. And because they have to reduce CO2 emissions by 50%. That's a huge, just imagine what your life would be like if you had to reduce your CO2 emissions by 50%.
I don't even know how I'd do it.
It's all a con. It's all to be able to have an excuse to be able to control people's activities, right?
It's just crazy.
And,
it's just crazy.
So it's all part of the whole plan of, this World War III. And if you look at warfare, one of the things you do in war is you cut the supply chains is one thing, and you cut communication. And right now we see that going on, right? With all the social media giants cutting the communications of people talking about what's really going on. And then also with our supply chains. This is going to continue on. Everything is going to continue on and get worse. That's the bottom line. But the COVID thing is going to kind of shift over to this whole climate agenda, because they're saying that you thought COVID was bad. Well, that's only a result of climate change. And climate change is going to be way worse. And we're going to have climate change lockdowns and all kinds of issues going on. And so here you have this graphic here with the climate crisis at the forefront, the 2021 Parliament of the World's Religions. So we're also seeing what's going on is the uniting of all the world's religions in order to fight this so-called climate change, right? And so the Parliament of the World Religions, a gathering of religious leaders from around the world, concluded its 8th convening Monday. Okay, now this was all done before the COP26. These leaders went to go meet with the Pope, talking about all this, because the Pope has a paper called the Dato Si talking about this whole climate issue, and that's basically where we're going to be under, moving forward. So we have that. We have, we can go probably to that other graphic that you pulled up just before, the ecocide. So the way it's going to go here is that as they roll out the Vax Pass and they start adding the agendas of UN Agenda 2030 to it. Let's see here. I'm trying to read it. My picture actually is, okay, there it is. Okay, so I'll just read this, why not? So Climate Sunday is the biggest ecumenical, okay, that's the ecumenical movement that has to do with the uniting of all the churches, and basically the papacy's at the head of it. For the climate justice, okay, so this is all for climate justice. Now, anything with justice is a papal UN word, and it means huge radical change for all of us. So they want to do this climate justice, and nations, the Western democracies are the ones that are causing all the problems in the world for all of the other countries. And so climate justice has to be made, and we're going to be paying. You can go back to it. Actually, I'm going to keep on reading it from it. And that's a big deal. So that all happened ahead of the COP26 with the Vatican, a lot of people meeting there. And so all these churches from 30 denominations call on the UK government to act on climate. So it's just another theater attack angle on all of this. So they're now, time is now. It's always now, right? Because they want to get this thing done because it all has to do with UN Agenda 2030. And what was the last one there? I was going to go read it. Okay, so anyhow, yeah, that's that. So you have basically what's going on is you have the world religions all meeting together, trying to go ahead and to save the planet. And then we can go to the Laudato Si. Now this is the Pope's encyclical talking about climate change and all that kind of stuff. And what I would say is you watch what the Pope does, because he's going to be in all of this like a dirty shirt, like, I mean, and really this is, well, this is actually where the source comes from, I mean, in my opinion. So Laudato Si, you'll see that there's underlined there. It's ecological conversion. Okay.
Right.
So not only do we have to be converted as Christians, but we have to do an ecological conversion now, right? And this all ties in with all these world religions coming together, and it has to do with climate change and on and on. And then, so remember that these terminologies, ecological conversions. Go to the next one, talking from Times Malta, because it defines what ecological conversion is. Okay. Ecological conversion also means dealing with time differently, both as an individual and society. We need to rediscover the rhythm of time and alternation between work and rest, with Sunday as a commonly shared weekly day of rest. The EU bishops rightly insist that education is a key to conversion. And that has to do with, remember the Global Compact on Education that the Pope had come up with? That's what this is all about. So our educational system really, we see how messed up it is now. But way back in the, quite a long time ago, it was, I think it was even under Agenda 21 in the 90s, where the educational system would have to, portray Agenda 21 goals. And that's why our whole educational system is all messed up now. So all of this is going on. And so people are wondering if it's just going to go away. Is this COVID thing just going to go away and we're going to go back to normal? Well, the power brokers say we're not ever going to go back to normal. And what we're going to see is an acceleration of all of these things that we've seen in the last 2 years, and it's going to spread into other areas. And it's going to get dark, actually, because they want to be able to go ahead and do the Great Reset. And when you reset a computer, before the show, right, you powered down the computer and you rebooted it up and you brought everything up again, right? And so with this Great Reset that Time magazine talked about in November of 2020, they did a whole issue on it. And you have the World Economic Forum, talking about it and everything else like that. This is going to happen. So we need to brace ourselves for that. If right now we can see the writing on the wall, if you're not playing with their agenda with all of this, yeah, that's okay. You can leave that up. Then you're going to be shut out. And so going along with this whole issue is this thing called Chrislam, where now they built these 3 buildings. And one is for the Muslim faith, and then you got the Jewish faith, and then you've got the Christian faith, basically kind of with this amalgamated smorgasbord under the papacy. And, the papacy, the Pope actually has signed an agreement with the Grand Imam, and they've made agreements. And there's actually a lot of close ties there. And so this is all going to happen, and it's going to be a new type of religion that's not really truly Christian. And people need to fast track, themselves as to what's really going on spiritually, because this is biblical. This is a worldwide event, and it's biblical. And now that they've actually pulled the pin and gone ahead with all of these vax rollouts and everything else, it's on, and it's going to continue to roll out. It's not going to stop until they reach their 2030 goals. And so a lot of people are going to have to be able to learn very quickly what's taken some of us decades to learn. Okay. And they're learning it on, what's going on in the world events and everything else. But because this is a biblical event that's going on, it's Revelation chapter 13, 14 to 17, where no man may buy or sell. That's where we're heading into right now. And And I would recommend that everyone get themselves a King James version on their phone or on their computer and get a concordance with it. And then you can do word searches and you can start studying out some of this stuff, like, this mark of the beast, do a search for mark, because people are thinking that the vaccine is a mark of the beast and they kind of run around. They don't have the Bible interpret for itself. I actually did a couple of videos on my YouTube channel called 666. You can see the graphics are 666 there. And I go in and share different Bible passages that talk about what the mark is, right? And, Cain, God set a mark on Cain so that he wouldn't be killed. You have also in Ezekiel chapter 9, those that didn't sigh and cry for the abominations done in Israel, the angel set a mark on them so that they wouldn't be killed by the destroying angel. So this mark is an invisible mark that God places upon us. And if you go and if you have your little Bible on your computer or your phone, you can do these word searches, or the fact of that Satan is going to impersonate Christ in the future. And that's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. And most people are going to be stooped by it. But you can do a search on Second Coming or, do a search or just read Matthew chapter 24 to find out what that second coming is.
Well, here's a question for you, Ron. I know I'm very familiar with these passages. And so we've got the pre-trib, post-trib. Where do you think when a lot of this bad stuff happens that the Bible is predicting? And let me just say to everybody, the Bible has been 100% right. Everything that it ever predicts and prophesies that will happen has happened. So there's a few things left to go. Do you think we're going to be here? Do you think that there'll be, or are we going to be gone?
The Bible is correct. We just mess it up in our interpretations and through not doing proper Bible study. Noah, we're not going to be raptured up before the whole thing. It's like Noah. Noah went through the flood, right? And that was a cataclysmic event, and I think that the whole earth shook, and they even probably wondered if they were going to live through it. No, I see that we're going to go through it. Those folks who believe that's fine, but I just hope they don't lose their faith when they go through terrible times ahead and expecting God to have raptured them, and then they'll, because they have a misunderstanding of Bible understanding, from my view, that they might lose their faith, right?
It really is fascinating. It really is. I mean, either way,
we all have to get into what the Bible has to say. Otherwise, we're going to be deceived. And so that's why I suggest like the King James and the concordance, because if you do a word study, let's say in the King James on, what happens when you're dead or the second coming or whatever, you're going to go 10 times further in your study than you would with any other version that I've found. Okay. So anyhow, so this is a biblical event. Radical things are going to happen. It's going to accelerate as time goes on, because in the next 3 to 5 years, most of what has to be in place for Agenda 2030 has to be there. And then the following years are the cleanup, right? So I expect to see, I thought it was going to happen, the Great Reset this last year, but it could very much happen this year, but it might be dependent on how many people take the vaccine, because that is to be tied into the fourth industrial revolution from what I can see. So
the Great Reset really ties in though to the economy, right? And what completely resetting the financial industry.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, if you have money in the bank, it might be vaporized, because before that, I think it's going to happen with a financial collapse. We're going to face a financial collapse because all these derivatives, 5 quadrillion or whatever dollars, it's just going to totally be a tsunami, wipe everything out. And so you have to have real assets instead of paper or fiat money. And and then once they reset everything, cash will be gone. It'll be a new digital currency that on the quantum financial system that is almost ready to roll out right now. It'll be really difficult then to be able to bypass things.
Yeah.
So
I've been enjoying covering covering these things. And Ron, thank you so much for sharing with us, because you're always ahead of the game, and I do hope that MPs are going to be listening to you. I know up there you're you're in touch with MPs and you try to let them know it's crickets, like you say. I don't know why they're not paying more attention to these things that matter to all Canadians.
Right.
And it's very pivotal for us to find out and to know what's going on with Agenda 2030. And so if people want to follow you, Ron, where can they go?
Well, I'm on Facebook. It's open, everything's open there. So you can go ahead and just under my name. I do a little bit of Twitter stuff, but less. I like Facebook a lot better as far as a platform, just how it works, not, first draconian stuff on it, but also YouTube as well. I try and post a video every Thursday. So that's what's going on. And if I could share one more thing about learning the future, and this is going to be controversial. So people are going to have to, have an open mind on this one. Okay. But if you just see what's going on, this will all tie in. So it's a book called The Great Controversy. You can actually even buy it at Walmart in the US. It's not on the Walmart Canadian website, but you can also just get it for free. If you just do a search for the book, The Great Controversy. And the very first chapter is riveting. It's talking about the fall of Jerusalem. And then it goes on throughout, history, and it takes us up to our time and into the future. And if you go to chapters like 35, where it says liberty of conscience threatened. Now, this was written back, in the 1800s. And so talking about our liberty of conscience threatened, that's happening right now. Exactly. And then the impending conflict is the next chapter. The scriptures as a safeguard, the final warning, and the time of trouble. If you read that with an open mind, ask God to show you if any of that, what you're reading is true, and then you can kind of, you can see where things are going. And if you don't believe what is said there, just keep it in your memory and just watch the developments as they unroll. And I'm 100% confident that what's written there is actually going to roll out.
Well, it's just so shocking, what we're seeing right now, and we're seeing governments play into all of it. So thank you so much, Ron. Hope
right.
to see you again. Thanks for your updates, and
right.
I know we'll have plenty to talk about in the days ahead. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks for your show.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, very, very shocking times. When you see what the Pope is doing, I'm hearing from a lot of my Catholic friends that they're not very happy about it. So there's been a few questions about, his buy-in to the whole Agenda 2030 and, Klaus and the World Economic Forum, all of these people meeting together, basically wargaming how to get control over us.